Hello everyone, this is Jim Ogrozinski with this week's lecture video. In last week's lecture video, I finished up the PowerPoint for Chapter 4, and since I'm not working with a PowerPoint this week, I've returned to my screencast software and talk about a few of the steps just as a review that will lead into this week's first draft. Just looking at the announcements in the schedule for this week, the draft is due Sunday, end of day. Hopefully, discussion board number 3 will allow everyone to pull together some sort of an idea of a main point or a thesis statement, and just to take a moment to review the process here. We've done the research, we've picked a topic, we've worked with those sources through the annotated bibliography. We've also worked with your sources in the double entry journal and exercise 4.3 along the way here. You've written 3 separate and distinct openings, made a determination of to which one you would like to use that you thought worked best. So the task here for the first draft is to grab one of those openings that you've already written. You can use them. That's the purpose behind that activity. So I urge you to go with the opening that you developed in exercise 4.3. Since it is for the first draft and ultimately your final draft of your research essay, you want to make sure that you elaborate on the draft, on the opening, I should say. Take some of the suggestions from your peer review activity to expand on your particular opening. Just about all of them could use a little bit more development and fine tuning. That way, you would have that opening pretty much out of the way as you move into the first draft. So I'd like to take a moment just to review some of the first draft criteria here, and I just want to make sure that everybody is clear on this. It needs to be submitted Sunday on time, April 19th. Of course, the due date is always, the time is always end of day. And I'm looking for a well-planned text, right? Engaging purpose and deliberate organizational structure, and then using 6 separate sources. The final essay draft, I'll review that in next week's screencast video. Okay, requires 6 separate sources, so use your sources and have them integrated in your draft as best you can at this point. Employ strategies for paraphrase, summary, and quotation, much like we've worked on so far this semester. Make sure about your in-text citation so I understand who the speaker is. Make sure you're introducing the speaker so I know exactly where you and your speakers and your information start and stop. Remember, I need a works cited page. All right. If you're using APA, and I don't think anybody is, make sure you have your references page. All right. And start working on that cross referencing between your in text citations and your works cited page. All right. So please format. MLA guidelines are going to drive the final research essay. As always, make sure you have double spacing, indented paragraph, a standard font, the 1-inch margin, and page numbers. And then to stretch this to a comfortable length, about 6 to 7 pages. I'm looking for 2,000 to 2,500 words. Your final essay draft will be 2,500 words is the minimum. So the more content you can generate and get close to that limit, the better off you will be for later on in the final draft. Also getting some peer review. If your draft is significantly short, then it's hard to review and provide feedback because there's just not much there. Okay, so it says be sure your first draft meets that above criteria. There are no revisions. So if you put something together and you do not achieve successfully any of the numbered items I have here, and if there is a reduction in points, it's not like you're going to do a redo and I'm going to look at this first draft again. I plan on, and I don't know how I'm going to exactly do this, but I am going to plan on commenting on drafts. So I haven't really decided if I don't really want to work in the first draft while peer review is going on. I'd much like to preserve that process for the course, for everyone in the course. So I'll figure that out accordingly, and I will let everybody know. Also, then be sure to take a look at this assignment. Then I want the GDoc to your link to your first draft and the peer report. You're going to open up a text box and upload multiple GDoc links, much like other activities. All right, and this is worth up to 75 points, so I just want to cover that with everyone. So just to take a quick look at the Drive folder, we are in the research essay drive folder, and I have already uploaded the peer review report for the first draft. Follows the same format for exercise 4.3, the peer review process. After you have completed your draft and you need a completed draft, write your report. Okay. So I've made some adjustments to accommodate for the first draft. So this, because of the length of the documents that are being peer reviewed, you do have some time to achieve that. Now, one item I do want to mention, and I do want to talk a little bit about, is some of the essay basics. Sometimes in a 102 course, what happens is that we get focused on topics and research and working with the sources, and when it finally comes down to preparing your research essay drafts in the final, everybody kind of forgets about the writing process and what it's like to put together a larger document. It's a little bit different than a 3-page paper. So remember, think about voice and identity is where you want to basically, and I said this in class before we transitioned to an online environment. I'm looking. Your audience is basically your classmates. We talked about this. There's no sense in writing up. We want you to write across in the research essay. So remember, by choosing your topic and something you're close to, something you might have had personal interest or an experience in, then there's that element of voice that should be into your particular um, research project, right? So I've uploaded a copy of the Community College Writers Handbook. I use this for often for my Com 101 courses. So you might want to take a few minutes to just roll through the some of the information here. It actually is quite informative and basic. Some of those items that you sometimes, in the putting together a larger project, everybody has a tendency to overlook. So I talk about MLA essay formatting guidelines and what the proper way to set up a document for MLA. Also, you can have the link here for the Purdue OWL, right? Of course, always I'm looking for the formatting here for an MLA heading, your title. Make sure you have a title. Titles are important, right? So, as I say here for essay writing tips, be creative with your title. Don't title it research paper. Okay, something that would be interesting, and there's an example here. Oftentimes here we do not repeat phrases throughout the paragraph. So the idea here is I often highlight if somebody's using a cliche or in their particular or same language 2 or 3 times in a paragraph or even within an essay, and I can pick up the pattern. I usually highlight those. Stay away from cliches. I know everybody says point blank that I'm dead set against questions, and I am. Um, Somebody I think even remarked in their peer report about my feeling about questions. But the idea here is that you want to stay away from questions. If you're going to ask questions, make sure that you answer them right away, and then just limit the use. Let's get back to the basics here. There is one idea per paragraph. So each paragraph is supposed to begin with a topic sentence. Topic sentences signal to the reader what the paragraph is about, and the paragraph must connect to the topic sentence. Okay, so if you do not open up topic sentence on the death penalty and finish the paragraph by a lack of funding for schools. Okay, so the idea here is that you would then try to connect income inequality, education inequality to crime. All right. So you want to make sure that you are controlling the conversation by your topic sentences. And for this research essay, you want to make sure that you're using those topic sentences to help connect in your lead in for your source material, create that quote sandwich, right? So I also provide a little tip: be thorough and provide the reader with enough background information. You might want to read through my example here. The idea here is be detailed in your explanation and to your reference and your language that you use to refer to things in the world. All right. Try to stay away from abstract pronoun use. You want to be specific. This is where we take all those writing skills from COM 101 and we implement them into this particular essay for COM 102. Connect related ideas and using sentence boundaries, right? All right, you won't, when using quotes in your writing, make the quote hamburger. Every quote needs that lead in, the top of the bun. The quote itself is the meat, and explanations or relevance, the bottom of the bun, okay, to make a hamburger, right? So the idea here is you want to look at some of the strong verbs here that you can use to acknowledge and work with your information and introduce them, right? All right, and here, never use block quotes unless you're instructed. I do not like block quotes even for an essay of this size, so please do not block quotes. Okay, there is a strict guidelines to using quoted material within a paragraph. Anything that exceeds 4 lines in a paragraph, the quote should be blocked. My feeling is to really move away from blocked quotes and integrate and break them up and integrate or paraphrase within the paragraph structure. So you might want to take a few minutes to take a look at the guidebook here, the handbook, what I call it, the writer's handbook. It is gives you some basic essay information. I've uploaded that into the Canvas course. You can turn around and access it through the announcement. I'll provide the link when I post the announcement. Make sure everyone is aware of the text entry box here. When you click on to submit this, the 2 links, and then move to the peer report. All right. Timely posting of your draft will allow not only myself but your classmates to work with your draft and provide peer review. Once again, just to demonstrate, I have the peer review groups here. Everybody is included in the group. If for some reason I messed up, please wait for the your group to post so that way you can work within your group. If for some reason um, somebody's not posting a first draft, I would suggest that you stay within the group. Email me if you need to move out of the peer review group to write your necessary 2 reviews. I think this wraps up about everything I'm working through. One thing I do want to mention here, let's get to this particular activity. Here we go to the first draft. The idea here is that there are 2 distinct organizational patterns, and I want everyone to understand that this is an essay. If you want to explore and discuss some of the research and what you found, you have to integrate your source information into well-planned paragraphs. Okay, avoid language then that says this source says, or that source says, or this author says. Sometimes, and in fact, it's beginning quite often for the first draft, I have a collection of annotations. Now, the idea here is to take your information and integrate this around your thinking about your topic. If you give me 6 glorified annotations, I call them, and let the sources control the conversation, that is not a successful first essay, nor is it a successful first draft. So the idea here is please look at your source information, figure out what you want to explore, and talk about your topic. And more importantly, you want to be able to integrate this in an essay using your opening, and you want to discuss your topic. You lead the conversation, not the sources. Let me say that again. You lead the conversation, not your sources. All right. So if you have any questions, you know where to find me via email. Good luck and be safe.